So we know what happened to the dragons now, but what about the other races of Equestrian Beyond? What about the hippogriffs, the griffins, the changelings? I want to know about those as well. Who knows if we'll ever find out, though. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host, Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episodes 22 and 23 of My Little Pony Make Your Mark. And these are the final two episodes, at least for now. I believe I've talked about this already, but there's not apparently going to be any, like, Make Your Mark released in 2024. Apparently they're focusing entirely on Tell Your Tale. And some people have come to believe that this means there's not going to be any more Make Your Mark at all. The problem with that being is there's not really been any evidence of that. And if nothing's confirmed, and if G5 stuff is still continuing in general, I don't really feel there's any reason to believe that. I just don't feel like there's anything that would make us truly believe it's over. Now, I'm not saying it completely isn't, but if it were, I feel like they would have to say something, right? My thought is, and I've said this before, but my thought is that they're going to be taking a year off from the main series, and then they'll come back in 2025 with more of it. This is probably going to finish off the arc, you could say, of Make Your Mark. When the series comes back in 2025, it might be under a different name. That's possible. But that's about it. I feel like there's no evidence to believe that it's over. And again, it could be, but if it is, then they've done a shit job at expressing that. But I do believe, like, we're gonna beat Opaline and everything. I don't think that's gonna be left open-ended or whatnot. And maybe find out a little bit more lore regarding the dragon's hibernation and everything. All we know is that Twilight ordered them to do it. She put the crystal force field around Equestria to keep Opaline out. Like, we get bits and pieces of it here and there, but not the full picture. So I'm wondering if we're going to get that here. Now, just as a note, these last two episodes aren't the last things in this chapter of Make Your Mark. There is a special, which is the Secrets of Starlight special. That will be next week for, our schedule and everything. Once we start that, we're basically finishing Make Your Mark for now. So we're still going to do that. Even though it's not an episode, we're still going to be counting it within there for next week. And that will finish off Make Your Mark for now. You may know I've also kind of, like, gone back and forth on whether or not I would do Tell Your Tale. And honestly, I'm just probably not going to. If I'm questioning it this much, if I'm, like, putting this much uncertainty into it, it's probably not going to happen. Because, like I've said before, I've seen little bits of Tell Your Tale here, and it's very clearly more childlike in its approach. Because it's so basically episodic, because they're a series of shorts and everything, it doesn't really have to worry about continuity or anything special like that. There's no story, and even beyond that, it doesn't seem to really worry about actually, like, keeping character continuity, I guess you could say, from the main series. Because one of the biggest issues I had with Make Your Mark was, or not with Make Your Mark, with Tell Your Tale, was always that the characters feel like Flanderizations of how they are portrayed in the main series. They feel like they're Flanderized, like over exaggerated versions of themselves. And that never sat right with me. Because that was one of my biggest issue with that My Little Pony Tales, or whatever it was called, the last thing pretty much that G4 put out. That animated series that completely missed the point of what made these characters appealing in the first place, and made them completely unlikable characterizations of themselves. Tell Your Tale reminds me of that. It's like, it feels like it just doesn't get what is making these characters so good in the main series. And mind you, I haven't seen a lot of Tell Your Tale. I've seen, actually, all things considered, very little of it. But I've seen clips, like just random little clips here and there, beyond where I initially got on my viewing. And it doesn't seem to have changed even with more recent ones. They seem like they're just, again, characterizations of themselves. And it's weird. It's like, I feel like the shorts are made for a younger audience, just altogether. The main series is made for, the fans of G4. It's a follow-up to G4. While still being child-friendly enough to where it can appeal to new viewers and everything, who are, young kids and all. But Tell Your Tale feels like it's entirely appealing to the young kids and no one else. Like Dora the Explorer and Bob the Builder levels of quality. Where it's just like, oh, this is just for little kids. It's not even something that an adult can enjoy watching with their kids. It's just for little kids to keep them preoccupied. That's what it feels like. So, because of all the uncertainty I've had with whether or not I would react to it, I'm more than likely not going to. Which means the rest of this year just won't have any MLP content. Luckily, we have a lot of other stuff to get to. We'll be fine. It does kind of suck, if we're being honest. But we should probably get into these episodes, because we do have 2 episodes to go today, and we have to find out how this is going to end. Because I assume the special isn't part of the main storyline. It's probably its own thing, because it's a special and everything, and from the like 1 or 2 screenshots I saw from it, it seemed to be completely separate. But we have to defeat Opaline, probably find out at least some more information, and wrap up things with the dragons, set up some more stuff probably for the future. Yada yada. And that's the thing too, if it sets up more for the future, then anyone saying that this is the end is like ridiculous, because that doesn't even pretend to make sense if so. It's like, if it actively sets up more for the future in these 2 episodes or the special, then saying that the series is over is just ignorance at best. But we'll see. We'll see. It could wrap it up all well and good to where it's like, yeah, that's the end. We will see. So let us get this going and I guess find out. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I guess the special does actually just follow up on this. Um, it seems like based off that ending, which leaves off on a kind of random cliffhanger, the special, The Secrets of Starlight, is the proper conclusion here, and it's kind of a part 3 to this, but it's still after the defeat of the villain and everything, and the entire like big conclusion. And it's not the first time that's kind of happened. Like, it doesn't usually happen with My Little Pony, at least based on Gen 4. But it's happened in various other things here where it's like, oh, we defeat the villain, but then we have like an episode or so of like, you know, the aftermath of everything. Setting up for the future, just wrapping everything up, just a closure episode. In this case, it's a full special. But yeah, it's like overall, this was the finale in a way. You know what I mean? Now, I believe I said this last time, but I want to reiterate this here because I feel like it is notable to bring up. This was definitely rushed. And it's not even like a little rushed, it was very rushed. And I don't know like the entire reasoning behind that. I don't know if it was because of Netflix. I don't know if the crew weren't confident that they would get more, and maybe still aren't. I don't know. I don't know if they were just, you know, hedging their bets, basically. I don't know the reasonings. I don't know how I don't know how all of the production went behind this. I don't know, like, if they were working on this basically up until, like, each chapter was released. I assume they were. I assume there was, like, a guideline laid out for the entire thing, but, like, as chapters were coming out, they kept working on it. So maybe they're, like, by the point, like, this was, like, maybe the last chapter came out or the chapter before that and they were working on this, it's like they realized, oh, we might not get any more after this. So we need to kind of wrap this up a little quicker than normal. Because that's the thing. This was very much rushed through, this finale. It kind of came out of nowhere. Not really nowhere, but you know what I mean. It just kind of happened without a lot of good build-up. And honestly, a lot of it was also just, in general, pushed through a little too quickly. I feel it would have been better, for example, if Opaline stealing the cutie marks had been happening a little more, a little earlier. Like, she started to do that, like, a little earlier, but, like, couldn't take them all, like, right away. And so that was, like, a more of a ongoing problem that they had to try and solve. But trying to force, like, all of this into these last, basically, 3 episodes, because counting last time with the dragons and everything, too, it's a lot. Because you have to introduce the dragons, which is a big thing to just introduce, or reintroduce, I guess, more accurately. You have to have that connection with Twilight and everything that she had put in place to protect Equestria. You have to have you have to have the stuff with Misty and Opaline, which gets resolved here, with Misty finally, you know, acting against Opaline and speaking out against her and everything. You have to have all the Unity stuff. You have to have Opaline stealing the cutie marks. It's like, there's just so much that they pushed into these final 2 episodes. And it's like, they made it work the best that they probably could, but I just have a feeling that they weren't given more than this at the time, and so they were maybe afraid that they weren't going to get anymore. And because of that, had to wrap this up a lot quicker than expected. That's the only thing I can like kind of comprehend with this. And it sucks because there's a lot of potential here. And I'm not going to say like all the potential was wasted, but they could have done a lot more if they had like a lot more time. Even just a few more episodes, honestly. Like this is episode 23, 22 and 23 we reacted to today. Normally in G4, a season of Pony had 26, right? 26 episodes. That would have been fine. 3 more episodes to kind of like build up this big finale would have been great. I just feel like they needed more. And again, I talked about this last time, so there's more like context and more thoughts in there as well in the last reaction, but still. That's my only real issue here though. I will say that. Like in terms of what actually happened, ignoring the fact that it was rushed, it was really good. Like this was a great finale. Opaline is a great villain. I don't give a shit what anyone says. I've heard people like complain that Opaline is just not that good of a villain, and it's just like, what show are you watching? Because it's clearly not this. Opaline's a great villain. She's a villain who is born out of being mistreated, but she is undeniably and irredeemably evil. She is wonderfully acted, really well written. She's entertaining, and just everything about her really is great. Like when you compare to like G4 villains, like I would say she's better than Nightmare Moon as a villain. I would say that she's better than villain Discord. And that's actually saying a bit, because Discord was actually at his best when he was a villain. When he was intentionally a villain. Not going to get into that argument again here. In fact, I think the only villain I would outright say is better than her from G4 would be Starlight. Because, as you know, Starlight started out as a villain, and I would say she's the only one who actually I would say would be better. All the other villains of G4, I think, are not as good as Opaline, honestly. It's like G4 and G5 have clearly taken different routes with their villains. G4 has villains who are, you know, basically even the main villains kind of felt a lot like villain of the week. It's like, oh, we need a villain for this premiere, or we need a villain for this finale. Let's just think up something. And it's just, it never felt like it was a big deal outside of that premiere or finale. But the difference here is, and I'm not saying that it can't work that way, but the difference here with Opaline being a recurring villain throughout at least this entire season, if you want to call it that, is that her presence is felt at all times. Even in episodes where it's mostly, you know, friendship and unity and slice of life stuff. Her presence still holds a grip on the world. Because you know that all of this friendship and unity and slice of life stuff is what she wants to destroy. So, even during those moments, you feel her presence. That's not something that the G4 villains, for the most part, did. Starlight is the big exception there. Because remember, Starlight premiered in the Season 5 premiere. She was part of Our Town and everything. And then throughout the season, after she escaped, you could see her in the background. And believe me, people saw her. It's not like one of those things where, oh, you really had to look or you had to know she was there. No, people saw her. That was actually a really big deal when that season was coming out. People were, like, really excited to look for her, because the first time they saw her in the background, it's like it was just this rush of dopamine. It's like just like, oh shit, in the best way. And so you see her in the background in multiple episodes. And then at the end of the season, she comes back and is the villain again. It feels like it was a great payoff. And that's why I loved Starlight as a villain. And eventually she also just became a great character, too, as a hero. But all the other villains were, again, like just this villain's here for the premiere, villain's here for the finale. The biggest exception are like the few villains that kind of made a return, but they kind of were lessened by their returns. Sombra, for example, when he returned, he was just it kind of lessened his character. He was more interesting when he was creepy and like saying one word, being crystals. You gave him like a personality and it was funny, but it kind of lessened his impact. When Tyrek returned, he just was not as good as when he first appeared. He just felt like more of a joke villain at that point. He felt lesser. If he hadn't returned, if Tyrek was just the one time, honestly, he would have been on the same level as Starlight for me, and would have been another G4 villain that I would say is better than Opaline. But his return hurt him. Chrysalis returned multiple times, and honestly, none of her returns helped. Like, they didn't destroy her character, but she would have been so much better if it was just the one time. If it was just the Canterlot wedding. A lot of times bringing back these villains just hurt them. Because G4 was built on that kind of idea to where they were supposed to be one-time villains. So bringing them back kind of ruined the point and hurt the overall vibes with them. But with this, Opaline was crafted to be a more constant threat. And it felt more impactful because of it. If a character like Chrysalis was more constant rather than just, oh, we're just going to randomly bring her back here and there, it would have worked a lot better. Same with Tyrek. But the way they handled it was different. And I think the best comparison you can use here is with Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra. Because if you remember, in Last Airbender, you have the recurring villain who is the big threat throughout the entire series, all 3 seasons, being Fire Lord Ozai. You have other little villains here and there, some of which are like kind of feeling more like the episodic villain of the season and whatnot. But you have the main driving force behind everything. Opaline feels a lot like Ozai in that way. She is the main driving force behind everything. She is the villain that is pulling the strings behind everything, and is just the big threat waiting to be the focus in the end. And G4, with its villains being more, again, episodic feeling, for lack of a better word, that I can think of at the moment at least, is more like Legend of Korra. If you remember, Legend of Korra's villains were seasonal. There's Amon for Season 1, Unalaq for Season 2, you have Zahir and the Red Lotus for Season 3, and Kuvira for Season 4. The big difference here is that the villains who were episodic in Legend of Korra, or seasonal, again, probably a better term there to use, their presence is felt throughout the entirety of their seasons. In Book 1 of Legend of Korra, Amon is a driving force behind literally everything in the season. He is an active threat the entire time and is driving the fear in Korra. Unalaq is a driving threat throughout the entirety of Season 2. Even if he's not the best villain and Season 2 is not the best of the seasons. That's still the case. Zahir and the Red Lotus, driving force in season 3. Kuvira, driving force in season 4. Hell, Kuvira is introduced in season 3. Actually, maybe no, I think it's 3. Yeah, it's 3. I was thinking maybe it's 2 for a second, but no, it's book 3. Kuvira is actually introduced earlier and has a little more build-up than any of the other characters, any of the other villains. Um, but that's the point. That's why I feel like the villains in G4 worked for their premieres and finales, but outside of that, don't really hold up, except for Starlight. Um, it's just the way that they were handled, basically. Opaline here is a fantastic villain because of the way she's handled, the way she's written, especially the way she's acted. Though the acting was never an issue with any of the G4 villains, let's be honest. Um, and while there was a lot that had to get through with this finale, um, I think that, again, they did the best they could and made Opaline a genuine threat. Now, Misty's confrontation with her again felt a little rushed because like Misty's there saying like, oh, I don't think I can face her and everything, literally because of the trauma she's faced. But then she sees like the necklace drop and everything with the cutie marks in it, and she just goes for it, which, mind you, like, great on Misty. That's awesome that she saw the opportunity and decided to seize it, that she found her courage and did so. But I feel like there could have been a little bit more of her struggling with facing Opaline. Like, I get it, but I feel like there could have been a little bit more. It felt like she just kind of like went into that a little too quickly. But when she did, it was fantastic. Like her calling out to Opaline and taunting her and telling her that I'm not on your side anymore, while also admittedly kind of hiding from her, which is fair, mind you. I liked that. It shows that she's standing up to her, but also not entirely um, confident enough to face her like face to face yet, until she goes to Misty's tree, at which point Misty jumps through the portal as well and directly confronts her. See, that was good. I liked that, especially the confrontation there, because it felt like everything was working up to that. And to clarify what I said, it's like I know Sunny is the main character here. I said in the reaction that Misty's the real main character, and I stand by that. I know Sunny is technically the main character, just like Twilight was, which is why Sunny was the one who was having the final battle in the end, why her cutie mark was the last one to be taken. They did the same thing with Twilight and G4. But the difference here is that Misty was the focus of the season. Make Your Mark is literally all about Misty. It's her story. Sunny is just the Twilight of Make Your Mark. So, but Misty is, I do stand by, is kind of the true main character, the secret hidden main character of the series that it all centers around. So even though she got beaten, which I expected to happen, mind you, her confrontation with Opaline was fantastic because it showed her growth. It showed how far she's come and how far she's still going to go. It showed that Misty is completely different from when we first met her, and how good that is. It's just a genuine, amazing moment. Probably my favorite moment of this finale. And did you notice how many times in this finale as well they were so close to very specifically saying friendship is magic? Like even like at the end of the fight with Opaline, like Sunny's like, and you know what friendship is, and then like the song starts like going into the lyrics that say like magic at that point, and it's like I see what you did there, but come on, she could have just added that one extra line with her yelling out magic. That would have been awesome. Come on. I really wanted them to specifically say friendship is magic there. It just felt like they were going to, but they never quite committed to it, and it's a little disappointing, but that's just me as well. um, but now that the dragons have been, awakened and freed and are just active allies to the ponies again, I'm wondering if we do get more in the future, if it will touch on other races again. Will we have the changelings back? Will we have the hippogriffs slash sea ponies back? Will we have any of these races back? I don't know. I would love for that to happen. Bring back the fucking yaks. Like, fuck yeah. I want to see Yona's descendant. um, but seriously, that would be awesome. Um, I don't know if it's going to happen. Hell, it's probably not. But that would be awesome. Um, and meanwhile, we have the setup at the end here for the special. Now, I already know that the special is winter themed. You could say. I don't know if it's specifically holiday themed, but I know it's winter themed. Which, as you know, the snow and everything that was coming through that portal at the end and Izzy's new look kind of centers around that. Yeah, obvious. And considering that this chapter came out in December and everything, it makes sense that the final special would be winter themed. Also, it just honestly feels like a fun idea to have after like this big finale with Opaline. Like, winter is a very, happy time of year. I mean, for a lot of people. There are some people who are not having a great time of year with the winter and everything, and that's valid. That's valid. But for a lot of people, winter is a very happy, fun, whimsical time of year with the holidays and everything. No matter what you celebrate, a lot of people just really like it. Like good memories of, hot cocoa by the fire, having snowball fights, all that kind of fun stuff. For some people, ice skating, that was never my thing, but a lot of people were into ice skating and stuff like that. A lot of people have just really fond memories and feelings about the winter. So using that as a way to close this off, at least for now, feels smart. It feels like a natural thing to do. But going back to the rest of these episodes as well, Sparky's story kind of coming full circle here with not only just choosing Hitch, but also the fact that, he brought Spike back up and helped save the day feels right. Like, Sparky had to have a big role to play here. With all the build-up, with the mystery surrounding Sparky being found in Maritime Bay and everything, Sparky had to have, like, that big moment. Everything was built up with his powers. It's like, yeah, that was just right. It felt just as well built up to as Misty confronting Opaline and everything. There's a lot we don't quite get answers to regarding especially the past, but I'm not entirely surprised by that. Because even with G4, they weren't able to answer everything, at least in the series. They answered more in the comics, apparently, but even then, I don't think they answered everything. And I know the G5 comics have I think a series of comics that feature Discord coming back, and there's a lot more lore given to it there. But just like with G4, the comics have always kind of been a soft canon at best. it's more like the series is canon to the comics, but the comics aren't canon to the series. So it's like, I can't really count that. And you can't count Tell Your Tale, because Tell Your Tale is its own continuity separate from Make Your Mark. So it's like, all of these are kind of... The comics, Tell Your Tale, and Make Your Mark are all separate continuities, all separate canons. And so it's like, what are we supposed to look at here? It's a weird way. Like, the comics are one thing, but having two series running simultaneously that have separate canons is a weird ass choice on their part. The shorts just feel so out of place, and I'm not going to go back into that. I already talked about that, but it's just like, they feel so needless. It's like, just why? I don't know, but yeah, this finale was really good. It was a strong closure to what we've gotten up till now, with the only issue being the pacing. It was notably rushed. We needed like maybe 2 or 3 more episodes in this season to build stuff up more before this finale. But if that's the only issue, the only real issue that we have, then I can still consider this a success. And I'm excited for next week when, as we start our new schedule, we finish this series with the Secrets of Starlight special. That will be next Friday, I believe. Let me just double check to be sure. Because the schedule is new. We haven't actually started yet, so let me just doubly be sure. Yes. MLP is for Friday next week. Specifically next week, because after that it's getting replaced because it's going to be done. But yeah, so that's going to be next Friday. So be prepared for that. We've got just over a week to go until then. But yeah, I'm excited to see how Secrets of Starlight just closes us all out, and we shall continue with more stuff after that. In the meantime, tell me what you thought of these final 2 episodes of My Little Pony Make Your Mark. What did you think of Opaline, of Misty finally confronting her, of just everything that happened? And let me know your thoughts going into the special as well. Obviously, no spoilers, but what do you think about how this is set up at the very end here? Let me know down below, and for now, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.